Hey there, it's Kurt of Trades here, and I have a DIY for you for the vehicle dynamics control switch for a 4th gen Subaru Impreza or the 1st gen Crosstrek. And I'm going to go into what you need for it, what it does, and how to do it. So here you go. So I'm going to try and keep this video as concise as I can. There's a lot to show you, so yeah, I'm going to try and keep it short as possible. Basically what this mod is the traction control button in your Crosstrek or your Impreza. What it does is when you push it, it will basically only allow you to spin your tires at slow speeds, and the vehicle dynamics control will still be active even if you turn your traction control off. And it allows you to get unstuck at slower speeds, but if you want to drift your car in the snow or on the gravel and get it sideways at all, you have to remove the VDC fuse. If you just push the button, your VDC is still on, so if you get your car sideways at all, the rear brakes will start to grab and straighten out your slide and basically kill your drift. So if you want to drift or power slide in the snow or gravel, you have to remove the fuse. Warning, disclaimer, don't do this on public roads if you do install this mod, because it will disable your ABS as well. That's the only way you can get the VDC off is basically all the systems work together. So if you disable the VDC, it disables your ABS and your hill start assist as well. So please don't use this on public roads. The way I'm going to show you how to do this VDC switch, I think, is the best way to do it. And there's a few reasons why. The first reason is because it has the OEM look, and so if you look here, this is when it's all done, and it looks exactly the same way as the car did from the factory, which is a plus, I think. And the illumination on the switch works as well, so when you turn on the headlights, the switch will illuminate. And the second reason why is because you don't have to use a relay. And if you use the original traction control switch that comes with the car, you will need to use a relay because it's a momentary switch. And when you do that, you have to do a little bit more wiring, so it's a little more complex. This is a little simpler way to do it by using 2 different switches to make a hybrid switch with the fog lamp switch. And the last reason that this is a good way to do it is because it doesn't require any drilling at all, and you don't need to drill out a separate hole for a different switch that's non-OEM or has a different look to it. And I think it's a much cleaner look than drilling a hole for a separate type of switch to put in here. It's way easier to just install this mod than it is to actually pull the fuse, because if you've ever actually pulled the fuse yourself, you realize it's actually pretty hard to reach. It's in this access panel here, and it's tucked way over to the side. If you have big hands like me, it makes it really kind of a pain to get in there. And so if you're just wanting to do a few donuts real quick or do a power slide real quick, you just flip the switch instead of having to reach in there with pliers and pull it out and then going in and putting it back in, and it's just kind of hard to reach and access. So it also doubles as like a small security system. So if when you leave your car, if you flip your switch to act as if the VDC switch is pulled, people won't know that that has happened. And if they have your keys, or like if you don't want your brother taking your car or something, you can do that and they won't know that the fuse is pulled, and when they go to shift into drive, the gear selector will be locking them out. So it's kind of a little fail-safe kind of security factor if you want. At a minimum, you will need 2 spade connectors like these. These are crimp connectors. You'll need 2 wire crimp connectors like these. I recommend that you just get a kit of some sort if you don't already have them, because there's a lot of things in this kit that you will need or you might use in the future for other mods. So I just got a whole kit because I didn't have a lot of the stuff in here. But those are the minimum you would need. You will need wire strippers like this to strip wiring and make crimp connections and cut wire. You will need the mini fuse socket kit, and it will come in a pack of 3 like this. I couldn't find it just by itself. These are called fuse adapters, and it's for a mini fuse. You will also need the fog lamp switch. This is a switch where if you push it on, it holds on or off. There's 2 settings. And you will need a Phillips screwdriver. You'll need a flat-bladed screwdriver or a trim removal tool. You'll need a mini fuse socket holder that's like this. You will need some needle nose pliers to remove the fuse. My kit came with one as well. And you'll need some extra wire. And you may need an X-Acto knife if your wire strippers are not small enough to strip the tiny wires. And you're also going to need a lot of patience. Okay, I'm going to show you how to open this. Basically, this little side piece comes off with a screwdriver, and then this part pulls out. And this part you'll need to take a screw off and pull that out as well. And there's a few little things for the traction control switch that will need to be done as well. You can use just a flat-bladed screwdriver. I recommend using some paper towel over the edge, or if you have a plastic trim removal tool, that would be better. I narfed up the plastic a little bit when I did it with a screwdriver, so just be careful. Just going to stick it in here like this and pry a little bit. You should hear it pop. Make sure you get it all the way down to the bottom so you can catch the edge. Once it pops out, you can just pull it the rest of the way. Wiggle it a little. Make sure these yellow tabs are on all the pieces you remove when you go to put them back. That way they stick in. Sometimes they'll fall out when you take it apart. There's a little screw here. I lost it when I took it apart earlier, but you'll have to take a Phillips screw off right here before this piece comes off. And this piece you're just going to pull. Just kind of wiggle it as you pull back, and it'll pop right off as well. And again, this one has the little yellow connectors on it too. This piece is connected when you get in here. I think it's easiest if you just take these two connections off. This is for your traction control and your fog light. That way you can get this other insert piece off without having this big bulky thing attached here. So this one, the traction control one's pretty easy. You just push down on this, the little piece right here, and pull it out. This one's a little trickier. There's a little tab that you gotta push in. It's on the side. It's pretty hard to do with your finger. It's a little easier with the flat-bladed screwdriver. Let me see if I can get it here. You just gotta push pretty hard. It kind of hurts your nail. There you go. And that detaches those. Here, there's a screw here, and there's a bunch of tabs you're gonna have to pull in. Just grab your Phillips screwdriver. Take this out. Try not to lose the screw like I did. And you're going to push these tabs in. There's one up here. And that whole piece will come out. Just like that. Now your fog light switch will still be in, or sorry, your traction control switch is still in here. You push these tabs and it actually pops out through the front. So push in the two tabs on the side. Push it out through the front. So that's how you get that out. And then it's all disassembled and ready to go for the next thing. This piece here, this is your fog light switch. This is pre-wired for adding fog lights from the factory if you don't have them as an option on your car. And this wire is taped up here. I took the tape off and I took back this insulation here and to expose the wires for it. This is your fog light again. This is your traction control. What you're going to do for this mod is you are going to use this extra piece for the fog light switch, and you're going to hook it up so that you can connect this to your switch, and it will still use the illumination so that your switch is illuminated when the car is on, and so that it'll look like an OEM traction control switch. And what you're going to do is you're going to clip these two middle wires, because those when they go to the switch, that's what is toggled when you toggle the switch on or off, and it allows the connection to be made when the switch is pushed, and it disconnects the connection when the switch is off. So you're going to clip these two wires here and give yourself a lot of space in case you mess up and need to redo this connection. Probably easier with side cutters, but again, you're just going to clip the two inner wires, leave the two outside wires connected like this, okay? And I would probably cap off the other two on this side so you don't get a short anywhere or accidentally connect those wires to anything else. You're going to want it to look like this. Okay, so this is not the way to do this. You need wire strippers that are really small. You can use an X-Acto knife, but you need to be very careful not to slice these wires. But the outer sheathing is pretty thin on them, so please don't do this. Much. Now it's got it here. There we go. Looks pretty good. The wire looks like it's pretty intact. I don't think I might have nicked it just a smidgen. So as you can see, my work surface is very clean. Kind of looking like Scotty Kilmer here with all my crap everywhere. So after you strip those, you have your connector clip here. This will connect on to the other end of your wire or your fuse connector here. So we have this here. So got that connection made. Your fuse is going to go right in here. This will go to one end of the switch wire that we cut off. And the other side, I'm going to have some more wire. I'm just going to make a straight, same thing, just make two blade connections here. Go out, make another connection for the other end of your switch here. So I just did the same with another wire. Again, one side is going to have a connector for your switch wires, for your for the fog light switch wires for the connector there, and crimp connect on this blade connection here. So you got two wires. One just has an inline fuse holder for your 7.5 amp VDC fuse. Now your two switches. You have your traction control switch. This one came with the car as is. It's a momentary switch, so it's only active when the button is down, and that's not going to work for what we need, and that's why you need this fog light switch. These two switches use the same size button, as you can see. They're almost identical. There are a few minor differences to them. One, this is your traction control switch. If you push it, watch what happens when I let go. It comes all the way back to the opening position. It doesn't latch at all. Now this one, your fog light one, it holds it down. Open or on and off. So if you wired up your VDC fuse to your traction control switch, it basically would always act like the VDC fuse was pulled unless you were holding the button down. So if you wanted to drive with your VDC on, you'd have to hold your button down all the time like this. So that's why you don't want that. Or you would have to use a relay, which involves a lot more wiring and getting power to your relay as well. So I don't want to deal with that, so I just went with using this switch. The only other difference, if you notice these little notches here, the connectors are slightly different because they have a little notch that won't let you plug it into the wrong one. Now when you go to pull, basically what you're going to do is you're going to swap the buttons off the face of them. So what I did when with my first one, I had to buy another switch. I had wasted $40 because when I tried to pull the face button off, I had the switch engaged like this, and inside there's a tiny plastic piece that holds it, and when I pulled it, it broke that tiny plastic piece inside and it wouldn't hold it anymore. And the switch does not want to come off. Ooh, that did not sound good. No, I just broke the inside. Oh my. Okay, so as long as the switch is not engaged, so if it's down, it's going to break your switch when you're trying to pull the face off. If it's open, it will not break the insides of the switch. You got to pull it pretty hard to get it off here. There we go. Popped right off. See that? Pops right off. Make sure you install the new switch the right way. I believe, actually you can install this switch upside down or right side up. It doesn't really matter which way the face goes on. I believe this gray part's on the bottom. And you need to get your traction control switch off as well. This one you don't have to worry about how it's on. Now be careful when you push it on, because I think if you push too hard when you're putting it on, it could break the insides of the switch as well. So please be very careful when you do this. If you want to take the switch apart, you can too. But again, it doesn't take near as much force when you're putting this back on. Just kind of snaps on. So now I have a traction control switch that latches. Perfect. So now you're going to take your switch connection here and your two crimp connectors, and you're going to crimp these on here. These are pretty tiny wires, so you're going to have to make sure you don't put too much into, so that the wire doesn't go all the way. I'm not even sure if this is going to hold. Gotta be really careful with this. Okay, let's see if it holds. Yeah, it held. I'm not going to pull on it too hard because I don't want to have to redo this. Got one here. Now I'm going to do the next one. Might even be easier just to hold it with the wire strippers here. Just hold it. That way you can just crimp it when you need it. That's way easier actually. And you can kind of look in and see how far needs to go. Here we go. Okay. All right. Looks good. Now we should test it before we install it all. Okay, now you're going to install your switch. Basically, after you have your whole connection set up, you're going to, we'll test it before we actually put everything back together. That way if it doesn't work, we can take it apart. So again, the little gray switch just slides on in here. There we go, so got that attached. And you're going to want to pull your 7.5 amp fuse. It's the, if you have a CVT, then it's the uppermost brown 7.5 amp fuse right here. If you have a manual, I think there's only one here. So again, it's the top brown one right there. I got my needle nose pliers. I'm pulling my fuse here. You're going to put your 7.5 amp fuse into your fuse holder. There we go. You're going to plug in your fuse adapter to where the fuse was at. Okay, your switch should be working now. If you have the switch on like this, that will act as if the fuse is in. If you have the switch out, that's as if the fuse is off. So we're going to start with it on, so the fuse should be in. So when I start up the car, nothing should be wrong. Okay, so I got my switch here, and we're going to test the illumination of the switch as well. So we're going to turn our car on. And we have no warning lights on the dash. That means it's working as is. You turn on your headlights, you should be able to see the illumination. It's illuminated, so that's good. Turn the lights off. Now when I pull the switch and hit the brakes, you have to hit the brakes for it to initiate. I should have the ABS light on the dash and the traction control. So I'm going to hit the switch, so that acts as if the fuse is off. And push the brake. Maybe. There it goes. So you see our traction control and our ABS light went on. That's how you know it works. On reset, if you put the fuse back on, those lights should go off when you reset your car. And they are off, so we know that works. Alright, one last thing I want to say before I put it all back together, and again, you should remember how to do that from the beginning. It's just the reverse of taking it apart. If you have the VDC fuse pulled before you turn your car on, so if you start the car with the switch in the off position where the fuse is act as if it's pulled, your car will not allow you, if you have a CVT, your car will not allow you to shift into gear. The parking or the gear shift selector will be locked. And the only way to get it unlocked is to put your fuse back in, so you can flip your switch back on, turn the car off, turn it on again, and it will let you do that. Or there's a little switch next to the gear selector. You can open that up and use a screwdriver to unlock it manually. And if like worst comes to worst, you can pull it out, put your fuse back in, so that you can get going for if some reason your switch is malfunctioning or your wire comes apart. Alright, so now we're going to put it all back together. First thing you need to do is with this, you're going to have to push your traction control switch in through the front, because this has to be done before you put anything else back together. Then you are going to hook up your, actually don't hook up your traction control yet, then this goes in. This will go on through the front. This pops right in. Now you can hook up your switches. This goes to your dimmer switch. This will not be used because that was your old traction control switch. I'm going to leave this in here in case I ever want to revert it back to the original, but I'm not, because that's terrible design. It shouldn't have to do a mod to get it to function as correctly. This goes to your new traction control fog lamp hybrid switch, and then this can go back on. Make sure your yellow tabs are in place. Make sure none of your wires get pinched underneath either. Looks good under there. Just snaps back in. If you didn't lose your screw, put your screw back in here. I don't know if this one's the right size. No, that's not the right size one. I don't know where that screw went. You don't really need it. This holds pretty good anyways. And then your trim piece goes back on. And there you go. Looks pretty OEM. And illumination works. So yeah, that's it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching.